Everything means something different when you're playing at a different level. Let's delve back into the concept of your story. In Man Transformation, we talked about the difference between your story and what actually happened, kind of the Werner-Erhard distinction that's very profound. I'd like to delve a little bit more deeply as we're trying to learn to become Mr. Right, to delve more deeply into your personal mythology. So what is a myth? Okay, let's just do a little bit of review here. What is a myth? Myth is a story. The common connotation is it's something that isn't true. But really, a myth is a profound communication or a profound body of information that's wrapped up in a particular type of timeless, archetypal story. The myths that have been handed down from past societies and cultures, the Greek myths, the Norse myths, other myths that are famous, these myths were originally passed down orally over time. And Joseph Campbell, who's the master of mythology, after traveling the world when he was studying world religion, started noticing that these different cultures that had not been in contact with each other for tens of thousands of years had very similar myths. And he said it couldn't have been that they were sharing them because they're too far apart. There's just too many years, too much distance. And so the one theory is that the human mind has so many different personalities and archetypes and things in it that as we orally pass a story from one person to the next, after it gets passed a number of times, it always shapes itself to the human mind and is telling a story about some aspect of our deeper psychology, which I've found to be very profound. And that's why certain myths, when you study them, they can be very healing. You read a myth or you watch a movie and you see a timeless story and somehow you feel healed. You see yourself in it. It resolved something for you. One of the famous myths is about Icarus. And Icarus's father built the cage where I think the Minotaur was, and had a son while he was there, and eventually wanted to escape from this prison island. So he built wax wings for him and for his son. And he said to his son, "Now fly straight, don't fly too high, because you'll get close to the sun and it will melt your wings. And don't fly too low because your wings will touch the water and you'll be pulled in and you'll drown." And his son said okay and took off. And the son, exuberant, excited, energized by being able to fly, flew higher and higher, and his wings melted and he fell to his death while his father was watching. And it's kind of a timeless story. There's something about that we can all relate to. We can all find something in our lives that we can overlay onto that, and that makes sense. That's a myth that you can kind of overlay just about any experience onto. Now, what my experience is that we each have a personal mythology that's our contextual story about women and relationships. And we also have one about our own life. What's that recurring story that just keeps happening over and over to us in our life? And what's that recurring story over and over and over that happens with women in relationships? And these are our personal myths. So you understand how I'm using the term personal myth? So what I'd like to do right now is let's do a little work and see if we can find out what your personal mythology is. The overlay, the contextual story that provides the framework for all of your experiences. that's the self-fulfilling prophecy that you make happen over and over and over through a million little unconscious choices, communications, etc. So let's start with you and your life. What is the recurring theme in your life? Not necessarily with women in relationships, but what is the recurring theme in your life? What is it? And you might have a few things that recur over and over and over in your life. But what are they? What are the plot lines that just keep coming up in your life? They keep coming up over and over. You're not consciously necessarily trying to create them, but these plot lines just keep showing up. They might be positive, they might be negative, they might be big challenges that you face over and over. What's your personal myth? Go ahead and just take a couple of minutes here and write down a few of them. They can just be one sentence long. See if you can identify 3 or 4 or 5 common plot lines, recurring themes that just happen and come up over and over and over in your life. Just do your best. A couple minutes. Go. And now I'd like to ask you, what would you like your myth to be for your life? What would you like the recurring theme or recurring story to be? Maybe you've got 2 or 3, maybe you've got just 1. But go ahead and write it down. What would you like your myth to be? What do you want that plot line that recurs over and over in your life? How do you want that to flow? How does it start? Where does it go from there? How does it resolve? What is that new story? Just another 3 minutes or so. What's your new myth? Who would like to share, maybe do a little work with me, who hasn't worked up here yet? You? You haven't been up here yet? You've been over here? That counts. Yeah, it counts for today. We want to have as many folks as we can up here sharing. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Welcome. Grab a chair. What's your name and where are you from?
Joe Selden from Jacksonville, Florida.
So what is your personal recurring plot line in your life? When you thought about that, what happens in your life on a recurring basis?
I feel like I get frustrated when something I can't do or I don't know something about, and I completely mentally shut down, and emotionally and intellectually I just completely shut out, or I get rid of it, completely just take it out.
So your myth is, I get frustrated, I shut down, and then
just get rid of it. Just take it out of my life.
Okay? So get frustrated, shut down, get rid of it. Now, if you've got a myth that says, get frustrated, shut down, get rid of it, what happens when something starts to frustrate you? You shut down. Right? Like that's just the way things work, right? If you've got a pattern that you keep doing over and over, if it happens often, one thing triggers the next, triggers the next. This is when these things start to take over our lives, because an emotional trigger then puts all this other chain of events into action. And it's like, oh, wait, I didn't want to do that necessarily. What's the new myth that you'd like to have for your life, or the new plot line? What would you like to have the story that just keeps happening over and over and over in your life?
Being able to, I don't know how to say it just right, but it would be being able to give value to the people that are in my lives, being able to inspire to people that are around me.
Excellent. So the new story is I want to be able to give value to and inspire the people that are around me in my life. All right? So there are a couple of ways that we'll look at this. The kind of the trigger feature, it seems, of the myth that he has that comes up in his life is frustration. Then he goes into shutting down, and then he gets it out of his life. And what he wants to do is he wants to give value and contribute, basically, to the people in his life. Let's go back. Let's dig a little bit. What's the earliest story you can remember when you felt frustrated and you shut down and you just pushed the thing out of your life?
The earliest one I can remember is I come home from kindergarten, and I drew this picture that I thought was like phenomenal. And I went up to show my mom, and she kind of like dismissed it. And I got kind of frustrated with it. When I showed my dad, he kind of dismissed it, and I got really angry. I just started crying, running all over the place. I threw it away, and I went and thought about it. I was like, well, I really want that picture, so I go back and get it, and there's coffee grounds all over it and everything. And so I couldn't get it back. And so I just went in my room and sat down and cried.
There are some really interesting scientists that have worked with animal behavior in the previous program in Man Transformation. I talked about one of them who's done a lot of work around imprinting and how we get imprinted when we're young. And there are certain parts of our brain that are plastic, our mind and emotional systems. And so when we get that imprint, that becomes imprinted as the way things are, so to speak. That's our map of the way things should be. We'll talk a little bit more about this later in the program, but this is very powerful stuff, because once something happens when you're young and then it becomes a recurring theme, it becomes not only an imprint, but then it becomes a patterned set of behaviors that happen after that. Thoughts, other emotions that are triggered, and it just becomes a sequence. And then once the button is pushed, then it happens after that. Now we could go do some work around kind of experiencing that, pain maybe that you felt, because there's probably something around you feeling that frustration and then not really experiencing it, just pushing it out of your, consciousness or out of your awareness and repressing. And that's probably going on now too, in some way, when you come across situations where you feel frustration, that you shut down instead of just allowing it to flow through you, being with it, and so forth. But instead of going through that process, which I recommend that, of course, you do, from the Man Transformation Program, what we can do is we can say, well, why don't we make a practice of having the trigger feature of the old myth become the trigger feature of the new myth? Because it's probably going to be a few minutes before you're going to be able to stop being triggered with frustration. Okay? There are, some therapists and some people who do different types of therapy, and they might say to you, no, I can get rid of that immediately. And if so, fantastic, work with them on that. But usually my experience is these things, when they're, hardwired in there, there's some work that needs to be done to kind of get to them. And in some cases, they're just a feature of who you are, kind of. Like, I've seen this with a lot of folks as well. But let's say that a medium-term solution would be, what if every time you felt frustration, you immediately had that act as a trigger to get you to go give some value to someone that you cared about, right? And what if you practiced that as a practice? Just like going to the gym when you're doing, lifting weight and you're doing something that's hard. Or as a practice, like going to work and doing a part of your job that isn't your favorite part of the job to do, but it's what you do to get the job done. Or, talking to your mother when she wants to bitch at you about some aspect of your life, and you know she's going to do it, and no matter what you do, she's going to keep doing that for the rest of your life, and you've just got to be there, let her do her bitching at you thing because you love her. And that's part of your practice. That's your practice in life. What if you practiced this as a practice of every time you feel frustration, you immediately go give value to someone in your life? You just get right off of it. You don't shut down. You don't try to get it out of your life. In fact, these two things don't even need to be related to each other. So maybe there's someone in your life that you care about and they do something and you get triggered with frustration. You might go give value to someone else, or you might give value to them. That's a very, kind of a higher level thing. You got to really evolve to be able to have someone that's pushing your button and right in that moment go give value to them. But does that sound like something you might be able to practice doing?
Oh yeah, definitely. That sounds, that being able to replace that would be able to help me get out of that frustration point, that letting that emotion flow through and really getting in there.
What triggers that frustration usually in your life?
When I can't do something, I don't know about something. I can
give me an example.
Like just recently, I started a new job doing photography, and got frustrated with it because I couldn't get the right shot, and so the person who was kind of training me get in there and he said, "Go sit down," and I was frustrated because I couldn't get it, and he said he took it over and did it the first time. So, and after that, I felt for the next 30 minutes, I just sat there and was like, whatever. Okay, I'll just sit here and do whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what is something that you could do to add value to someone in your life that you care about? Contribute to them.
Listen, be able to I don't know yet.
Listen is the only way to add value for you?
No, definitely not.
What's something you've done for someone in the last year that they really, really appreciated?
Inspire them to be better than who they are.
How did you do that? What did you do?
I used to teach martial arts.
Okay.
So teaching martial arts, that brings a lot of value to, I had 300 students and bring value to their lives. So it was like a daily thing. I'd bring value constantly, every day.
And you don't do that anymore?
No, I don't.
No. What's another thing you could do? Who are the three people you care about in your life the most?
My brother, my mom, and my dad.
Okay. What is something that your brother, what's something that you do to add value to your brother's life, to contribute to his life?
Conversing, just talking with him.
Talking to him?
Talking to him,
Okay.
having higher conversations, telling him when he's being a dumbass.
Perfect. Call your brother up and say you're being a dumbass. Excellent. And then what about with your mom and dad? Same.
Yeah, it's usually the same. Usually the same with all of them.
It's great. Really? Call up and say you're being a dumbass?
Usually.
Is there anything else you do for these three people to add value to their lives? The only things you do in the world to add value are teach martial arts and tell your family that they're dumbasses, huh?
Spend time going and, really helping my mom do her gardening, helping her, just contributing with...
Helping your mom garden.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. All right. What about with your dad?
He lives across the nation, so it's usually just calling, talking to him about his business.
Okay. Talking to him about his business. Perfect. And what about your brother?
Didn't we just talk about that?
Yeah, but it was tell him he's a dumbass.
That's right. Encouraging him to work out more, to be a healthier person.
Okay, encouraging him to work out, talking to him about working out. Great. So what if you had a practice where every time you felt frustrated, you went and in round robin format, You called your dad and you talked to him about business. You went over to your mom and you helped her with her gardening, or you talked to your brother about working out. And that was it. Those were your 3 things that you did. And your myth in the future is when I get tripped up, when I stumble, I go contribute to someone else's life. And specifically, my practice is to contribute to my father, my mother, and my brother. I call my father and I talk to him about business. I go to my mother's house and I work with her on her garden. And I call my brother and I talk to him about getting more healthy and working out. How does that seem as a myth in the future?
Incredible.
Now, what's going to stop you from doing it?
The only thing I could see would spending time with my mom to go do that, since I travel a lot doing my photography.
Well, what's going to stop you from doing it is the old pattern of starting to feel frustrated, and then when you're in it, you're like, I don't give a damn about anyone else. I'm going into shutdown mode right now. I don't want to call somebody else and, whatever. So how could we make it so that you do these things? What could we put in place so that you actually start doing this on a regular basis? How often do you get frustrated?
Not often. It's not very often.
How often? Once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year?
I'd say once a month.
Okay, once a month.
Once a month.
Great. Could you call each of these 3 people up and say, I went to this really weird seminar, and I realized that I've got a pattern where I get frustrated, I shut down, and then I just block, and I don't think that's healthy for me anymore. I'm going to go to the next level. So what I'm going to do is, from now on when I'm frustrated, Mom, I'm going to come over and help you with your gardening. So you can expect me about once every 3 months to just show up because it's time to help you out. Because I got frustrated and I don't want to shut down. I want to contribute to someone else's life. I want that friction in my life to be a trigger to get back on track. Could you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The next thing that you can do that's very high leverage for this kind of thing is to see if you can find people who have the mythology that you want and get them around you in your life. Surround yourself with people that they're doing what you would like to do. Could you find someone that maybe gets emotionally frustrated or blocked and who has overcome it by turning it into some kind of practice or value that you could start hanging out with?
I could definitely find someone.
Excellent. And then start having a conversation about it. Start holding the other person accountable. Start making it part of your development, part of your life. Is healing this wound with a practice of turning the negativity into some type of love and contribution. Now this sounds relatively simple, and it is pretty simple conceptually. But when you're in the moment and you're in your thing, you're in your myth, it's not as easy to pull out and say, I'm going to do the right thing here. What I recommend is that you go through your life and you find those friction points, find those things that annoy you, find things that bother you, and link them to some positive mythology that you want to have happen. One of mine, as an example, is in the past I've been not as maybe physically coordinated as some of my friends. Some people that I know, they just seem to be very in touch with their body, know how they're moving, everything from the way they park cars to the way they walk through buildings, and just like I can just see that they are in touch. They don't bump into things, whatever. I haven't been that person. Like I kind of bump into stuff and I'm a little clumsy, and I don't know, they got a 3 millimeter tolerance for their body and I got a 3 inch. And I run into stuff and go, what the hell was that there? And I realize, I didn't look and I just ran into the thing, right? And I also don't particularly like physical pain very much. Some people I know, they don't care about it. They stub their toe and it's bleeding all over the place and they're like, yeah, whatever, let's party, or let's go for a walk, or And I know several people like this. I didn't get that one, right? If I stub my toe, I'm like, oh, is my toe going to be okay? Oh, damn it, I hate that when I stub my toe. Oh, does everybody see my toes stubbed? Wah. So one of the things that I've been working on in my life is, and I, had to be made aware of that, other people seeing it kind of thing. But I've wanted to wake up into the present moment more in life. Just remember that I'm alive, and remember that I'm right here, right now, and remember that this is the only one of these moments that I get, and feel my body, feel my emotions, kind of come out of being dissociated and way back in my brain, and just be right here. Because, it seems that that's a good way to wake up more, be more conscious. So what I did is I started linking the two together. So whenever I bump into something and I wasn't watching where I was going, whenever I hurt myself, whenever I get a little scratch or cut or whatever, and I feel the physical pain and that feeling of, oh, I got to check it and make sure it's okay and I'm wounded and whatever, or I just bump into something and I go, what the hell was I doing? I've now linked that to remember yourself. Wake up for a minute. Come back to right now. And it works like a charm. It really is amazing how in the past I had this thing that annoyed me, and it was almost like I was afraid of that experience in life. And now when it happens, I'll have the same emotional response at some level sometimes, but I also say, oh, yep, there's the wake-up call again. And I actually get this huge benefit because I've attached it to something that's a positive, that's way more positive than the negative is negative. You follow? The transforming of these things. I was having a great conversation with Tony Schwartz, who wrote the book, The Power of Full Engagement, and great book. And he was talking about how he was able to transform a worrying habit into a optimism habit. And he said, years ago he would wake up in the morning and he'd lay in bed and he'd think about all the bad things that were probably going to happen that day. And then he made a conscious choice to wake up and immediately imagine several positive things that were going to happen that day. And after doing it over and over and over for a long period of time, he said it's actually it's like part of his personal mythology. He wakes up in the morning and thinks about all the positive things that are going to happen. Now, hopefully I'm not going to be hurting myself in order to remember that I'm in the present moment, okay? You're going to see me up here with a knife going, what are you doing, dude? Oh, I'm awake. But you can transform, you can link these things together, and you can almost make your wound into its own healing, or turn it into something that is bigger, a bigger healing than the wound was in the first place. I have a friend who's a kind of a famous internet marketer, and we were talking a few years ago, and he was talking about how he gets very offended when anyone asks for a refund for one of his products. And in the old days when his business was smaller, he'd call them up on the phone and he'd say, why do you want a refund? He's like, I'm offended. Like, this product's really good. Did you use it? Like, whatever. So you can tell he was pretty charged up about it. And then he said, and then I discovered a new way to approach it. What I did is I created a letter that offered one of my friend's products for sale. And when someone asked for a refund, I'd always send it to them by check with this letter wrapped around it. And it turned out that by offering his friend's product, that enough of the people who got the refund bought the other product, and he made an affiliate commission, that when someone asked for a refund, he made more money. Right? So refunds were profitable. I said, that's a pretty damn good idea. Right? That's not bad. Right? So what's your old myth? What's the new myth you want to create? And how can you kind of take that trigger feature from the old one and have it trigger something better, trigger something more positive, trigger a direction in your life that you can do over and over and over that grows you. Good, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.
Who else has one? You've already been up here. You want to come back up here and talk about music again, don't you? No. You want to come up? How's it going, man?
Mr. David D.
Mr. David D. to you.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm James Essex, and I'm from Los Angeles, California.
How's it going, James?
Doing great. Doing well.
Tell me what's a recurring story in your life?
Should probably know this by now.
You don't need your journal for this one.
I have a lot of potential, and everybody sees that I have a lot of potential, and I see that I have a lot of potential. And when I don't meet that
Everyone
potential,
sees it?
seems to be, or the people who,
I'm trying.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
When I don't meet this potential, other friends, family members become really disappointed in me, and I seem to disappoint people a lot.
I disappoint people a lot when I don't reach my potential. Give me an example.
About a year and a half ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was running track full time for my school. I had the potential of going to a USC, getting a USC scholarship for running the mile, and I didn't go the extra mile that I needed to in order to get on the team, and I missed it. When I was running track, I would really do everything pretty half-ass. I'd go there, I wouldn't skip days, different things like that. And I was still, going to state every year. I ran 152 PR.
No.
Yeah, for 800 meters.
You ran 152 PR?
Yeah.
Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Let me explain. I run the 800-meter dash, which is a half a mile. And I can do 2 laps around a track in half a mile in less than 2 minutes. So
That doesn't get you a scholarship, though.
151 would have got me a scholarship, actually.
Ooh, damn it. I hate it when that happens. All right. Does anybody remember that skit from Saturday Night Live? I hate it when that happens. Take one of those, pipe cleaners and you put it up your nose. I hate that. I hate it when that happens. Okay. Never mind. You had to be there.
Other things, school, last semester, I'm generally in most of my classes, I'm pretty well liked by the teachers. I get things pretty quickly, I think, and I know how to play the game. When I'm in the classes, though, I don't do the work extracurricular. So sometimes I'll wind up with C's when I should easily wind up with A's, stuff like that.
What's the earliest one of these you can remember?
I remember I was a straight A student up until about the 8th grade. In 9th grade, I decided to take a Spanish class. I needed a language requirement, and for some reason, I was studying flashcards, and I was with my mother, and I wasn't getting it right, and she was helping me study, and she said something like, if you don't do well on this test and you get a C in this class, I'm going to take something away. I don't even remember what it was. And I think that after that, I've always gotten not as great grades, and I got a C in the class. I don't remember what was taken away. And after that, it's just like I never really went to my full potential at it. And I always felt like that kind of hurt me. But I know that it was just something superficial that was created in my head. I mean, I saw that. And actually, in the Man Transformation, the last one that I was here at, I was kind of thinking about that. And I was like, wow, this is really something dumb and something that's taken away my potential. So trying to think about why I'm doing this to myself, why I'm self-sabotaging myself. It's kind of,
Hang on a sec. Let's not go into the why. What's the story you'd like to have in the future? What's the myth that you'd like to keep living over and over?
Until really recently, I was never the holder of my environment, the controller of my environment. I lived with other people, always had a roommate, something, lived in my parents' house, never could really set up an environment, a room, a situation where I had my own little quiet space where I could do my studying or do my, I always blamed it on something else. I can't study here because my roommate's here. I can't study here. They're playing video games in the next room. It's distracting me. I'll go play video games. Or I can't. And until really recently, I just bought a new house and I have my own environment now. And it's just, I always kind of use that as an excuse. So now that I have my own environment, it's only been about a week. And I want to make this into an opportunity where I can take all the things, schedule my time, and wake up in the morning, go for bike rides, do running, maybe start triathlons.
What's the story you want to live over and over? What's the plot?
I want to live to my full potential that I have, and...
But what's the story?
The story.
Yeah, how does it go in your head?
How's it go in my head?
Yeah, give me an example of something that happens.
Day-to-day life?
Yeah. Where could you live your full potential? What area of your life?
In my schooling, in getting a career, in meeting the right people in order to advance my career.
Which one's most important to you?
Ultimately, school is a vehicle to get to where I want to get to. I'm taking business marketing or business management.
Well, so you had school, meeting people, and career.
Yes.
These are three kind of different areas. They're obviously related to each other.
Yes.
But you're going to go through situational experiences in each of one of them. What's the storyline that's going to happen in all of them?
I'm at my full potential and I'm successful in all of these.
But what does that mean?
This means that I really feel that when I put my effort into it, I don't waste my time, I don't waste my time when I'm spending it on a specific task.
Okay.
I take a class.
That's what you don't do. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I take a class.
Yeah.
I spend 16 weeks of my life, and I get a C. Is that a good is that a good use of time?
It is a good waste, yeah.
It's a good waste of time.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we haven't landed yet on what is the story, right? And I don't know if this is it, but the story might be when I recognize an opportunity, I seize it and I go 100% into it. And if it works out, great, I follow it. If it doesn't work out, I let it go without being attached and I get right on to the next opportunity. That's the story that, I see in my life. I don't know if that's it, or it might be when I commit to something, I stick with it and I do it at 100% until it's complete. And then when that's finished, I go to the next thing and I stick with that until it's complete, right? Or the story might be, maybe you're someone that sticks with things for too long. Maybe the story you need for your life is, I try things from now on for 30 days, and that's it. And I try it for 30 days, and if it doesn't work for me, I get rid of it. And if it does work for me, I try it for another 30. I'm just saying, what is the mythology? What is that story?
Yeah, it's more like the second one that you said, where why can't I think of this in my own head?
Give me a number 2 with fries.
Ketchup and mustard. Never mind.
You don't know what it is.
I don't
do you think?
All right, you hit it actually right on the point, and I just couldn't remember.
When an opportunity comes up, you seize it, you go for it?
Yes,
Is that
exactly. When an opportunity comes up, I seize it, I go for it, and I don't become distracted or lose interest, lose motivation.
Yeah.
That's what happens. I lose motivation. That's my story.
Okay. So these ideas of what you don't do you keep saying, I do this, and I don't do this, and I don't do that, and I don't do that. You remember interestingly enough, the kind of the pivotal story was his mom said, don't screw this up, right? Don't get a C, or else you're going to be in trouble. And now instead of talking about what you want, you keep talking about what you don't want, right? Don't screw this up. Don't mess it up. Don't whatever. Now, there's another element to what he's saying that I think is important for us to notice, because we all have some of this. And that is, when you first sat down and we talked about your myth, do you remember what you said?
I said that people are disappointed in me.
Good. Where's the motivation coming from?
Other people, not myself.
Outside of himself, other people. Who noticed that as soon as he said it? Okay. Who's just realizing that that's significant right now? Right? The myth is, don't reach full potential, other people disappointed. Don't reach full potential, others disappointed. So a part of this, do you think it would be valuable for you to start judging success of what your potential is by your own yardstick rather than other people's yardstick of you?
Definitely.
Good. So you want to, when you see an opportunity, you want to seize it. And instead of saying, don't get distracted, don't this, don't that, what do you want to do when you seize it?
Live up to the full potential and spend all of my effort into the task at hand.
Okay, give it 100%, maybe we could say?
Give it 100%, yes.
Okay, when an opportunity comes up that you want, you seize it, you give it 100%, and how will you judge success?
Based off of myself, based off of how I feel that I think I can have done.
How about based on whether or not you gave it 100%?
Yeah.
You know, and if you fall on your face, but you gave it 100%, you stand up and you walk proud and you say, I gave it my all. Right? I did my part. Maybe judging it by what you put into it, not necessarily about whether or not it worked. Right? Okay. Now, when does this, what's the trigger feature, so to speak, here on the current myth? What starts to happen where you go, uh-oh, this is starting to go bad, and I'm not living up to my potential, and people are going to be disappointed? When do you start realizing that?
The debate in the morning.
The debate in the morning?
Yep, it starts right there in the morning.
The morning debate.
Yep.
Wow, the morning debate is, that's really profound. Honestly, who has a morning debate? Raise your hand. Jeez. I just created a time management program that I released that I put everything into, and I didn't even realize that the morning debate was such an issue. I'm going to do something on the morning debate at some point in my life, because I've pretty well solved it, and I think I know how to help get that solved. That's awesome. So the morning debate is when you know, huh? It's interesting, too, how he talked about, I mean, you could hear that he was sabotaging his own success right from the beginning, right? Getting into track and knowing you have potential, but skipping days and whatever. It's almost as if, you know, one of my favorite parts of a movie, for various reasons, has certain personal meaning to me, but it's also very human, is in the old movie Good Will Hunting. Who saw that movie, right? Yeah, it's a good movie to watch once in a while, where Matt Damon was talking to Robin Williams, and they finally had a little bit of a breakthrough, and Robin Williams was asking about Matt Damon's father, and he was like, oh yeah, he was a bastard. He would beat me, and you know, then he would say, do you want the belt or do you want the wrench? And then Robin Williams, I think, said something like, you know, so what'd you choose? Which one did you take? And he'd say, I took the wrench. And Robin Williams said, why'd you take the wrench? And Matt Damon said, because fuck him. That's why. Right? We do things for reasons that don't make logical sense, but when you hear it, you go, right. Like, I understand that. I get it. I don't know if this is true. I mean, we've just been talking for 5 minutes, but is it possible that when you do something where you could live up to your potential in life, that some part of you just goes, start sabotaging this one right now to show her for threatening me with a C in Spanish class back then, and gets to be in control of the situation by not living up to your potential. You get to be more, in control of your life by not living up to your potential. And then they get disappointed, and it's like, yeah, exactly. But I was in control of my life, not you. I don't know, but these are the way that our lives work. So every morning now, interestingly enough, you face a moment where you can trigger this thing in your life. You have the opportunity to do it. Do you have a snooze button on your alarm clock?
Yes, but I realize that the snooze button is bad. So I did. The
snooze button is the devil.
So what I did instead is I just set multiple alarms every 15 minutes. That's a joke, but that's kind of true because that's what I did on my iPhone.
Wow. Who sets multiple alarms every 15 minutes? Oh my God. What are we becoming in this nation?
Yeah, so if I hit the snooze button on one of them, then I got 2 alarms going off. And then eventually it's just every 30 seconds I'm just hitting the snooze button.
How long has this gone at its maximum? Like, how long have you, from when the first one went off until you stopped pressing snooze buttons and turned them all off, was the maximum amount of time?
This morning, I set it for 5 a.m. because I had errands to do. Yeah, before I got here. And I probably got up around 6:30.
That's pretty good. So on average, you're basically burning about an hour and a half worth of good solid rest every day that you could have gotten by just setting it for 6:30.
But then if I set it for 6:30, I'd wake up at 7 or 8. That's a limiting belief. I know. I just said that. I just kind of dug
See, if
my
I
own
set my
grave.
alarm clock for noon, then I'll miss dinner. And then what? Then I'm hosed. So I went and I bought this generator, and I have it outside because the power goes out, and I got these 17 alarms that are all set up. I don't want to screw this up, right? Okay, so what could we do to, number one, get rid of this very, limiting and debilitating pattern of playing the game, with yourself?
I honestly feel like I need a lot more self-discipline in putting myself to sleep at a recent time, so I don't feel like I need to do this.
Good.
This also comes from mismanaging my time and trying to put too much stuff late at night, trying to either do things late at night that don't need to be done at that time, or even indulging myself in things that are bad during late at night things. I don't know, computer, on the internet, Facebook. You all know MySpace and Facebook.
Yeah, indulging in things that are bad late at night on the computer.
Yep, that too.
Like MySpace and Facebook. A little Wikipedia. Yeah. Do you believe that he said that too? Awesome. Thanks for being honest.
Prawn.
Let's not go there. But what could you do? So are there things, is there like a drop dead time where if your alarm rang at that moment and you knew that it was that moment, because you have a certain commitment, you would just get up?
Yes, 9:06 a.m.
9:06 a.m. is the time?
That is the exact time that I have to be out my door to be in class at least 1 minute late.
Thank you so much, because you are liberating so many of us by just being honest about it.
Yeah, this is contributing with the community.
Yeah. Who does something like this in their life? Right. Okay, good. I love it how I keep saying it. He keeps raising his hand up here.
Oh, I'm part of that group.
Awesome. It is a we. So 9:05 is really when you need to leave?
Yes.
So you need to leave at 9.
Yes.
Okay. What time do you need to wake up to leave at 9?
If I change my clothes?
No, just last, realistically.
Realistically, I would like to wait. Okay.
No, not like to.
Realistically.
Yeah. What time do you have to actually get out of bed to make it out the door at 9 and be good?
7:50.
7:50?
Yeah.
That is really the last minute?
No, that's not last minute. Last minute is like 9. I wake up at 9. I go brush my teeth and drink some water and rush out the door. That's last minute.
How often does that happen?
A little too often.
20% of the time? 30?
About 50% of the time.
Half of days?
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah? Okay. Well, it's just what it is. It's not necessarily good or bad, right?
It is what it is.
What, yeah, you're like, no, it really is bad. Really bad. What time do you usually go to sleep?
2, 3, 4.
What?
2 or 3 or 4.
Which one?
Let's go with 3.
3? Okay. So if you go to bed at 3 and you wake up at 7:50, you've gotten not enough sleep. Exactly, right? How much sleep do you need to feel good?
About 6 hours is actually good for me.
You're solid with 6?
I'm pretty solid with 6.
Okay, so if you go to bed at 1:50, wake up at 7:50, is that it?
It's not healthy. I mean, that works. I know I said that 6 works, but it's not. Going to sleep at 1 and
We're
trying
having
to
the
wake up.
debate right here.
Yeah, it really ultimately plays a toll. If I could, I wish I could get at least 8 hours of sleep a night.
Okay, so if you got up at 7:50, you'd need to go to bed
Right around 11:30, 11:45.
11:30 or 11:45? That's probably dreamland for you, right? That's probably... How often do you go to bed before midnight?
It depends on if I just crash.
How often?
Once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you went to bed at midnight and got up at 7:30, let's just say, and you did that regularly, you'd be making massive progress. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
That'd be massive progress. Okay. The first thing I recommend that you do is, I always use 2 alarm clocks, by the way, but I always set them for exactly the same time, not a bunch of different times. And I use 2 alarm clocks to have a backup, because in times past, I've had times where the power goes out and the battery and the thing didn't, whatever. I always use 2 alarm clocks. They're just redundant. Even in these programs, when I go upstairs at lunch, I do a 20-minute nap. I got 2 nap timers. Bam. Always redundant. And since I've used 2, I've never missed something. Just hasn't happened. So I like the idea of having 2, but I think you got to get rid of the snooze. I think you got to eliminate that thing right off the bat. And I don't know if they even make clocks that don't have the morning debate button built in. I think you got to get rid of the snooze. What did we decide reaching your full potential was? Taking action, executing, seizing an opportunity, and then putting 100% into it, and then judging the outcome based on what would be a visual image you could imagine that looks like that to you.
What would be a visual image of that?
Yeah, could be anything, a picture of an eagle flying through the air, or
Okay, so a symbol.
one of the pictures you look at night on Wikipedia. Like astronomy or something. Really, what's an outcome you want in your life?
An outcome?
Yeah, anything, a goal, a physical, a thing, a tangible result.
being able to control myself so that I can eventually control a relationship. Not control as in...
Yeah, but what's an outcome that you could have that would, what would be some evidence that that was happening? Would you look different? Would you be driving a certain car?
Yeah,
would you live in a certain place?
I'd feel healthier. I'd have more energy. I wouldn't be bogged down
Well, it's a
during
visual,
the day.
a picture,
A
something that
picture.
represents it. Anything. It doesn't matter. Just make it up.
Looking in the mirror and seeing myself be more vibrant. I don't know.
Awesome. Better than I could have thought. So here's your practice, okay? What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to get a small table that, is maybe about this high, and just follow me with your hands. Do everything I do. Okay, perfect. And then you got to move it like this when I'm moving. Okay, good. All right, perfect. Yeah, all right. Yeah, good. Stop that. Okay. And set it up against your wall in some way that you can get a full-length mirror and it can completely block the table. So you've got to actually pick the mirror up and move it to get to the table. And then get 2 really loud alarm clocks and set them for 7:30 and put them on the table and have the full-length mirror right there that's on the other side of the room from your bed, so that when they go off, you have to get your ass up out of bed, you got to walk over and see yourself in the mirror and look at yourself, move the mirror, turn the alarm clocks off, and then make the decision, am I going to compromise and go back to bed, or am I going to stay on my mission here? Can you do that?
I think I can do that.
Okay, awesome. And then what I'd like you to do...
I was just going to say, I know I can do that. I shouldn't say think.
Fantastic. And then what I'd like you to do is create a set of 3 affirmations. Okay? When I see an opportunity that's right for me, I seize it. And when I see an opportunity that's right for me, I seize it. Number 2, I give it 100%. Okay, I give the opportunity I've chosen 100%. And then number 3, I judge my success based on the effort that I put in. I judge my own success based on the effort that I put in. And then, when you wake up in the morning and you get up, have that taped on your mirror so that you see yourself and you see the affirmations, you turn the alarm clocks off, and then you look at your sorry ass in that mirror and you read those affirmations to yourself. I'm joking about the sorry ass part.
No, I was going to say, when you said look at yourself in the morning, do you like to look at yourself in the morning?
This isn't for me. This is more for you. I don't really have a problem with the way I look in the morning. I'm a pretty sexy bitch when I first wake up. My hair is a little tousled, and I look freshly slept. But you see where I'm going with this?
Definitely.
Right? How do we transform this whole thing into something that could really facilitate your own growth to the next level? Next, you need to find some people that get their ass up in the morning and get into making something happen. And you need to hang out with these people and you need to talk to them about it. And when you have the alarm clock struggle, you need to say to them, I'm playing my game with the alarm clock, I'm backsliding, I'm going back into, making mom wrong for making me taking my whatever away when I got a C in Spanish class, I'm doing my game, I got to get back on my practice here, right? And then also, you said it, it's about going to sleep at night. That's a big piece, by the way, in terms of time management, is when you go to sleep at night is a giant piece of the puzzle. What could you do to make sure you're in bed by 11:45 so you're going to sleep at midnight? What would you need to do? Because getting ready for bed is kind of like the aircraft control tower saying, okay, we've got the holding pattern out here, initiate approach. You've got to kind of get all these things happening to actually get into bed. Because it's not like you go, oh, I'm done with Wikipedia. right? And it's over. You got to go brush your teeth, figure out what you're doing tomorrow, shut things off in the house, like whatever you've got to do. How long does it take from when you say, okay, I'm going to wrap this up and go to bed until you're in bed going to sleep?
If I probably gave myself 25 minutes, 25 minutes, I could probably have that all done.
25 minutes?
Yeah, and then have everything scheduled for everything set up for the next day. So
Okay.
I just wake up in the morning. And
What are you usually doing at night before you go to sleep? If it's anything weird, don't say it. If you're up at night, what are you doing? Reading, studying, hanging out with friends? Like, what are you typically doing?
I'm with my roommates, or we have people over. We'll do beer pong. I mean, just normal college stuff. Or I'll be on the internet and just, games, poker, stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Could you set your alarm for 11:15 p.m.? Right? Set your alarm for 11:15 p.m. when you wake up. So that at night, at 11:15 p.m., your alarm goes off and it's your 30-minute warning. You got to be in bed in 30 minutes. So that you've got a cue that you set up not when you were in the moment, but that helped you make the decision. So when it went off, you consciously said, you know what, I'm in the moment right now. I'm going to shut that sucker off and I'm going to stay up till 4, and I'm going to, instead of, when you're in the moment, it's just one thing leads to another, and you're like, whatever, I'll be fine. I'll just sleep in tomorrow. I know how that goes. I'm a late night kind of person myself.
How old were you when you figured out, how to self-discipline yourself?
I still haven't figured it out. I don't know. Self-discipline, from my experience, is, the equation, we talked about it in Man Transformation, but the equation is the rarest state of mind that we get, rarest and most valuable, and the state that we should cherish is awareness, where we wake up for a moment and we go, oh, shit, what am I doing? Like, here I am. I see the bigger picture. Like, I get it for a second. Rare, very rare. The rarest and most valuable energy that we get is what we might call willpower, and we get very little of that. And most of us burn it through internal friction and stress. So preserving willpower and applying willpower is the name of the game. Where do you want to apply willpower? You want to apply the little bit of willpower that you get to creating routines and rituals that you do every day. So it's more about just, you're already doing the same things every day. We all are. We're already all doing rituals and routines and patterns every day. Most of them just aren't conscious. We're just kind of doing what feels right, and so we work ourselves into these grooves and these patterns. Well, if every 30 days you put a new one in place, you'll wake up in a year and your life will be different. And it won't be like there's self-discipline involved or whatever. I'll give you an example here. If there's junk food around, I will eat it. Okay, I kind of know that about myself by now. I eat, I think, what most people would consider to be a relatively very, very healthy diet with a lot of raw organic food and whatever. This is not the way it's always been, right? Up until just the last few years, really. So people say, how did you get so disciplined and whatever? And I say, it's not really about discipline at all. It's about, I've gotten into the groove where I've used my willpower to make it a pattern. So now, here, as an example at this program, I'll go upstairs this evening to work on the content for, and review the content for tomorrow's program and think about what we did today and, do a little bit of work and relax and whatever. And I've got a refrigerator. Actually, I've got 2 of them. I'm that weird. The hotel's got 2 of them stocked full of a bunch of weird food. And you might look at that food and say, ugh, you're a freak. But what I know is that if that's all there is in the house, that I'm going to eat the right amount of that food. Because I like it, it feels good, I know how much to eat, whatever. And you might say, how did you get so disciplined? I'm like, I'm not that disciplined. In fact, I'll just give you a little view into my life here. At lunch, just a couple of hours ago, I went upstairs to my room. I took out this raw kind of green superfood soup that they make at this place that's local here, and I ate some of it. I took a 20-minute nap, and I got up and I was getting ready to come down here, and I was like, I want something sweet to eat. So I actually went around and patrolled like the whole room thinking, did somebody put something in here that I don't know about? Maybe there's a piece of chocolate in this room somewhere. Maybe there's something in here. But there wasn't. Right? So I actually had another bite of, some very healthy food that was right there. A couple of bites of some super healthy stuff because I was still a little bit hungry and, whatever. Which is not really my style even. I'm not really a snacker as much anymore because I've learned that I feel better when I don't. But that's where I was at. And if, I can't promise that if there was somebody had dropped a giant Milky Way bar or something in there, that I wouldn't have been like, you know what, I've been good lately. And just inhaled that sucker. Right? So self-discipline, I think, comes down to setting up the situation so that you're not, temptation isn't there all the time, and then just building routines so that you do the right thing, and surrounding yourself with people that are good role models for the behavior that you want to have. It's not that complex. People look at my life now and they go, oh, you're so self-disciplined and you're this and that. I'm shocked when I hear it. I kind of still am reeling from hearing that a lot. And it's really just because I learned a few techniques from some smart people, and I said, well, I want my life to be like this, and here's where I want to wake up in the future, and I should probably start doing this and get some good role models, and it just kind of works itself out. And then it just becomes the way it is. And it's not like I don't wake up in the morning and wrestle with myself and go, oh, I don't want to get up, whatever. This morning, I went to sleep pretty late last night. I was up pretty late working on all this stuff and thinking about the program and doing some other things, and I didn't get near as much sleep as I would have liked to have gotten. When that alarm clock went off this morning, I wanted to debate. Okay, I wanted to, but I didn't. I got up because I know how much time I need to get ready, and I set it for the right amount of time. I just do it. So I think you can get into the habit pattern of doing this.
You inspire me, by the way, for being able to control your own environment that way. Just having everything set up. So
there's not much to it, man. It's like if you want to go buy groceries, eat a really big meal, and then go to the grocery store. Right? Set the conditions up so that, the worst time to go to the grocery store is when you're really hungry. Plan what you're going to eat yesterday so that when you get to it, that's what's there and that's what's available. Not when you're starving and you forgot to eat and you're stressed out and you're running late and you're in your car and like all the things are stacked against you. Don't decide when you're going to wake up at 4 a.m. when you're going to sleep. Decide when you're going to go to sleep when you wake up at 7 a.m. Yeah. And these aren't, you don't just go bam and your whole life has changed. That's not the way it works. What you do is you become determined to get more and more control of your life and to set things up because you know that you're going to be asleep most of the time anyway. So set your life up so that when you're asleep most of the time, at least you're doing the right thing. At least you got the little horse blinders on so you're like this. It's not that miraculous. It really isn't. Although it feels pretty miraculous as your life goes on and you start taking more and more control of it because you realize that it really isn't that complex. It's not that hard. It's actually more difficult and more stressful to not have a life that's supporting you. It's more difficult and more stressful and harder. It's just that it doesn't, when you're in it, it doesn't seem that way because the ideal that you have for yourself in the future seems so far. And it's like, what we do is we go, well, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and then my whole life's going to be perfect. And then we wake up and we immediately go into debate and then we don't wake up for another 4 hours. And then, I screwed that one up. Let me do this one. So, you get ground a little bit at a time, one step at a time. You eat the elephant one bite at a time. And you look like a fan of elephant meat. So get to one bite at a time. Nice work.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Give me that thing. You are a mess. Good work. And now, what is the recurring story in your relationships with women? What is your mythology with women? What's the story that keeps coming up over and over and over? Write it down. What is your personal mythology in relationship? What is that plot line that just keeps coming up over and over and over? And now, what would you like your mythology to be in relationships? What would you like your recurring story to be within this relationship with a total 10 that you want? What's the myth that you want to be experiencing and living over and over and over? In my life, my relationship myth was relationships don't work out. That was my myth. Relationships don't work out. I saw it happen with both pairs of grandparents. I saw it happen with my parents. I saw it happen with people around me. That's just what it looked like. And then, of course, I took my logical brain and I applied it to the subject and I said, well, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And of the ones that don't end in divorce, most of those seem to me from the outside like they kind of suck. So, relationship looks like about a 9 in 10 or 19 out of 20 chance that it's not going to work out or it's going to suck. Relationships don't work. I don't want that myth. That's not the core myth that I want in my life. I don't want to be walking around and sitting in front of an amazing woman that I'm getting to know and being like, well, this is either not going to work out or it's going to suck. I don't want that to be the paradigm that's, helping operate how I'm getting to know her. So I've, over time, replaced that paradigm, that myth, with relationships do work. Okay, relationships do work. And to me, what that means is that if you're aware and you're conscious of what you're doing, and you get a little bit more intention around who you're choosing to be with, what your reasoning is for why you're being there, get in touch with your own vision for your life and how you're going to affect the world, who you need to become, who I need to become, that you can meet someone and work this compatibility issue out and create a relationship that really does work. And even more than just has what I would, in the past, what I would have thought of the 1 in 20 relationships that do work means they just seem happy. That you can go way beyond that. That you can have relationships where you can have a relationship, I can have a relationship where I'm saying this is the most amazing experience that I've ever had. So what I've done to make this happen is I've, number one, attempted to have relationships with that paradigm and live from there. And number two, surround myself with people who are having relationships that are like that. And I've been very fortunate now that I have several couples that are close to me, that are friends now, where I'm close friends with the man and with the woman, and with the two of them as a couple, and seeing what it's like to be in that kind of relationship where 1 + 1 = 11, and understand what it's like to deal with the challenges and how you handle those things, but also how that synergistic component can happen where you can bring incredible amounts by being the right person and having the right paradigm and doing things in the right way. And at this point, I am convinced that 1 + 1 can equal 11. As much as I, could be convinced of something. In other words, my current perspective at this time, the way I see it, is this is a very strong possibility if you bring that paradigm to it. It's been a fascinating change to watch that happen. And now, I've got some of that old programming, and some of the times that stuff comes up for me, but now I have a different view, and I'm on a different path, and I'm a different person to be in a relationship with. Who would like to do some work around the relationship mythology and hasn't been up here yet? You? Come on up. How's it going?
How are you? Nick.
How's it going?
Good,
How's it
how
going,
are you?
Nick?
Good.
I've said how's it going a lot today. I can't control myself.
Hi, my name's Nick from Knoxville.
How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
Fantastic. So talk to me about what comes up for you in your past. What's been the storyline that's recurred in your past relationships?
All right. Typically, when I get into a relationship with a woman, things go really well for the most part. As long as we get past, the first month or so, it's typically a good relationship. But I found that when I'm in a relationship with a woman, it seems that most of the women I date seriously have been pretty dependent women. And I'm a little older now, and I think that's just who I chose to be with.
How old are you?
Older than when I first had my first relationship. I'm 24.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Freaking me out here. I got to start taking whatever pills you're taking or eating something different.
So we'll have this relation, but when a woman is dependent and we're in a relationship together, it kind of stresses me out, I guess.
What's the story? What happens?
Story is, I think that I'll be in a relationship, I never fully commit, I push women away, and we eventually go from like having a relationship where everything's great to we're no longer friends, we don't talk. I'm not friends with any of my ex-girlfriends, not one.
So you find women that are very dependent, and then you don't give them what they want, which is a relationship, and eventually it crumbles.
Basically.
Interesting. What would you like your story to be?
I would like to be able to get into a relationship and fully commit and fully engage and really be not dependent myself, but in the relationship, with them. I like to be able to go out with my girlfriends, take them out with me and mix my friends, my social group with the girl I'm dating, which is something that's really hard for me to do. I don't know why, but basically just have a real relationship that's not all about games and manipulation and all the things that I do.
Yeah, all the things I do, good. What would be something that would happen regularly in that relationship that would just be a recurring theme that would happen over and over that would indicate to you that it's what you want?
I'd be having fun for the most part in the relationship, and I wouldn't be thinking about
what would happen, though.
What would happen.
Yeah. Might be around going out with your friends.
Yeah, we'd go out. We'd get ready together, have a few drinks, go out, have a good night, not fight. Me not get in my head so much to where I don't start fights or.
Sounds like you're the troublemaker here.
Yeah, I am. I'm the problem. I know.
Oh, okay, cool. I appreciate that. Let's go back a little ways in the past. So let's say that the You know what? Let's go a little bit deeper before we go back. What is the storyline? What is the thing that happens over and over and over when you're in a great relationship that allows you to know that you're fully committing, that you're having a good relationship, that she's mixing with your social group? What happens over and over? Is it, you know what, once a week we spend some time together on a Friday and we go do something that I enjoy, and then, or something that she enjoys, and then we get ready and we have a couple of drinks, we have a great time, and then we go out to meet some of my friends and we spend 4 hours with them, and then we come home and we go to sleep, and then whatever. Like that, and it's a great night and I feel good about it. She connects with my friends connect with her. Like whatever. What is that? Is there something like that you could imagine happening over and over and over?
Yeah, you know, we have our own separate days. Like she's got her work, I've got my work. We
Yep.
meet up, maybe cook dinner, have some friends over, have a few drinks, go out, meet up with some other people. I really like her friends. Like I like her social group, she likes mine. We all get along. We all hang out.
So there's what I heard right there sounds like a good one, which is, you know, once a week, or however often you wanted it to be, but once a week, she and I invite friends over, we cook dinner, then we all go out together and have a great evening. And that happens once a week. And that's just the new story. And we have a great time every time it happens. It happens every week like clockwork.
Sure.
Does that sound like that could be pretty fun for you if that happened? Okay. Let's go back a little bit and delve into this myth of, I find women that are dependent, I don't commit, and then, you know, they are being dependent, I'm not committing, I withdraw, and then it falls apart, and then we never talk again. Tell me about your relationship with your mom.
Me and my mom are a lot closer than we used to be. She's had a couple of issues with illnesses, which has kind of brought everybody together.
Yep.
My mom is not really, I mean, she was like in the 70s, like a business person in the mortgage department, in the mortgage area. And kind of had to deal with all these men that were trying to like not let her in at that time because she was a woman. And I think that, and she's admitted this and said this, but I think it's kind of like made her a little bit emotionally like cold a little bit. So, I mean, we talk and interact and have good conversations, but I think my mom actually has trouble being present a lot of times, just because of what she's dealt with and all that.
What was her relationship like with your dad?
Her relationship with my dad,
Yeah.
she kind of ignores a lot and like lets things just kind of sweeps things under the rug.
Yeah.
Doesn't really deal with a lot of stuff he does. They're pretty. They've stayed together. I mean, for like 25 years, but I don't know if they're like in love, and I can't.
Yeah. Would you characterize, can you see any of this relationship mythology that you have happen with you in their relationship?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the connect you can see?
Thinking about it like that, I really think that I would almost rather not be in a relationship than have the kind of relationship they have. I mean, like, every night, come home from work, watch like CSI, go to sleep, never really talk about things, never really deal with anything, like don't have fun. They don't have a social group they go out with. They're pretty incompatible, I think, as far as like just normal day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And I think I would rather just do what they were doing when they met in their 30s, which is just be single and just date, than have that. But also can see the value and benefit of having a woman that I really like, you're talking about, I'm interdependent with, and
Yeah.
really enjoy being with.
Is your mom the dependent type or the independent type or the interdependent type? How do you see her?
I think they're both independent,
They're very independent types?
very independent when it comes to each other.
Are you the independent type?
Yeah, I am, but it's like financially, I'm not right now. Like I always will get in jams and then like be like, oh, my parents are there, and like even though like they no longer want to help, I always manage to like.
You help them.
I help them help me. Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Yeah, but you just feel to me like someone that's independent. Like you kind of like to make your own way. You don't like to depend on other people, kind of thing. Am I wrong?
I'd say the way that I've learned to communicate and interact with people through this, I guess, community over the last since 4 years probably.
Yeah.
Has made me feel more independent. But there's still a lot of like issues I have that I haven't really like completely dealt with, like seeking approval, caring what other people think. Like if I'm talking to one of my friends and there's a girl in the room, like I might not look at her, but I'll start talking louder, like differently, trying to like.
I do that too.
Okay, good. At least there's two of us.
In case it makes you feel better, I'm jackass too on occasion. Yeah, unconsciously.
I'd say for the most part, you're right, though.
Yeah. About me being a jackass?
If you say so.
Okay, cool. Good answer. Typically when you're having challenges in a situation, I didn't want to think this way for years, for a long time in my life. But if you look back to your own relationship with your mother, and you look back to your parents' relationship, there's a lot to be found there. In a lot of cases, we're, because we develop via imprints that we get from our parents that then shape our experience, we often feel attracted to women who fit that model in some way. They some way fit like a lock and key together. And we're not conscious of it, of course. It just feels comfortable. Well, the woman's got her thing going on too, right? Because she got her imprints from her parents. And this is when we wake up and we realize, oh my God, I'm having a conversation that I had heard my parents have. Or this woman is acting like my mother used to act, and I'm acting to her like I act to my mom. And there's a lot of this stuff that really goes down, really happens. What kind of woman do you think you would need to attract into your life to have the lifestyle that you want and the relationship that you want in your mind?
Well, I think back to my last girlfriend, and I think everything was pretty much perfect about her, except that level of dependence that she had on me and some other things about me where I was at the time. But I think probably just I need a girl that's got an overall positive outlook in life.
Was she cute?
Yeah, she was gorgeous.
What a mess, huh?
She had a lot of issues internally going on that she didn't know how to deal with, and I tried to help her with, but at the same time I didn't want to become the guy that was like constantly trying to like fix her. And even though she said she felt like I lectured her a lot, which that's happened a lot of times with girlfriends. I hear that a lot.
My first really, really super hot, like gorgeous model girlfriend was almost the death of me because she was so hot and such a mess. And I tried to help her, and I did all that stuff. And, that it really is the siren song for a man. That's a rough one when she's that hot. I don't know if she was that hot, but she was probably pretty attractive, huh? Yeah. Especially when everybody else is like, well, that's what you have to make you happy. And part of this process that we're talking about here is transitioning from whatever the hell everybody else thinks to what you really think and what you want for your life, measuring your own success with your own standards. So what is the one quality that this woman really needs to have? If there was just one quality she would need to have to be that woman who, because it's interesting that this last woman was really attractive. I assume that that's why you were attracted to her when you first met her, was because she was hot, right?
Yeah, plus she had a boyfriend, so...
Oh, perfect. Right, unattainable. So there's the challenge, the male challenge as well. But when you said the ideal woman, it really sounded like it's somebody that you enjoyed spending time with and that you enjoyed having around your friends and had good social group. What would be the one quality that's the most important quality of all that a woman would have to most likely be that woman?
I think, and this is what I've learned recently, I think that it would have to be something like her security in life is based on something other than her relationship with me. Like, I don't want to say it has to be this way, but I've noticed a lot of times, as long as there's not a lot of issues with their sexuality, Christian girls are great to be around. I like being around them because they have this security and happiness in life that comes from something other than me and other than whatever. It's almost like it comes from some assurance that this is the way it is. I can feel safe about that, and they're not constantly changing because of the world that's changing around them. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain, but I think some sort of spiritual, deep, just connectivity with some higher level, higher plane, I think would really...
Okay. So spiritually connected with a higher power, maybe we'll call it. To avoid
I
anything
think so. I think
sticky.
so.
Okay, so spiritually connected with a higher power. What else would be that woman that you're... Because, you're talking about a woman that likes to drink and go out, spiritually connected with a higher power, likes to go drink and go out. Maybe. I know several women that are kind of thing, but when you say wants to have friends over and cook dinner, have a couple of drinks, then go out, mix with her social group, my social group, there seems to be something there that's a quality that would be all that stuff. What would it be? I'll give you a hint. Social.
Okay, social?
Socially intelligent. Right? So social
Yeah.
intelligence.
Definitely.
Right? So maybe a quality would be social intelligence. If I made you choose, if I said, you know what, you're going to have a woman that's got very low social intelligence, but she's spiritually connected to a higher power and just rock solid. Or I said, she's not going to be as spiritually connected, but she's just going to be totally socially intelligent. Which one would you choose? If you had to. Which one do you think would really work more for you?
I'd say probably socially intelligent because we can work on the spiritual. That can come. We can work on that together.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
On a certain level, it makes sense. A little challenging on another one. But if that's where you're at, then, totally fine. So, socially intelligent is the key. Spiritually connected to a higher power is next. What else would you like in a woman?
I want a girl that's aware of her own tendencies, knows what's going on, knows a little bit about why she does the things she does.
Emotionally intelligent as well?
Emotionally intelligent.
Okay.
Probably almost more than socially intelligent, or maybe equal. I understand that women have emotions and they're led by their emotions, but
I've heard that.
I've met women that understand their emotions and have a feel for them a little bit better and how their emotions affect the way they act. And I've met women that don't have that.
Right.
So
I've met those too.
okay, that's good.
So, interestingly enough, Daniel Goleman wrote the book Emotional Intelligence. He wrote another book called Social Intelligence. I highly recommend both books. They're different and fascinating. So you'd like a woman that's emotionally intelligent and socially intelligent and connected to a higher power.
Or at least working on it.
Or working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My experience is those things are very compatible. All three of those can be compatible with each other. Women that are socially intelligent are often emotionally intelligent, and women that are both of those are often connect to a spiritual higher power. They do actually kind of go together. And I wanted to know because I wanted to see if you had any that are incompatible. So if you were to say to me as an example, I want a woman who is highly detail-oriented and organized, and wakes up every day and organizes everything in her life and makes checklists and puts all the details together and plans everything, and is also a creative, artistic genius, I would say, my experience is those two things are not necessarily compatible. And let's just see if we can work this out. But those three things often are compatible with each other. What I noticed, though, is you didn't say, I want a really attractive woman. And you didn't say, I want a woman with a boyfriend. You didn't say any of that other stuff. But that's often what draws us in is she's really hot. So I'm going to try and make it work. I'll see if I can make her emotionally intelligent or socially intelligent, or, make her have a boyfriend that I can take her away from, or whatever, right? So if I said to you, attractive or emotionally and socially intelligent, which one of those would you choose?
I would definitely choose emotionally and socially intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think that if a girl was not attractive, I don't know if I'd ever even really get to find out that much about her, because I don't think I'd get that far with a girl that I wasn't at least attracted to on some level.
On some level,
mm-hmm.
Right. My experience, by the way, is that for me, one of my foundational things is a woman's got to take care of herself physically. She has to have enough self-respect for kind of the vehicle, so to speak, to take really good care of it. And my experience is that just about any woman, if she takes really good care of herself, can be some level of attractive, right? So I kind of knock it out with that one. And there's another, element, which is an attractive woman is, kind of just as likely to be emotionally intelligent as an unattractive woman is, statistically speaking. Of course, one of the challenges with attractive women is the persona issue. Has it become her ticket? Has it become her thing that she uses to get what she wants in life, so she works that thing? Or is she just naturally attractive and she takes good care of herself and, so forth? So you got to deal with that as well. But how do we turn this myth of you attracting women who are dependent and then you withdrawing? How do we translate that, or almost transmute that, into the myth of you finding a woman who's socially and emotionally intelligent, connected to a higher power, and then get her happily integrated into life with friends? Brainstorm for a sec. What can you come up with? How can you use all these pieces that we've just put on the table?
So if I understand you, how can I take the previous myth and change it?
I can take all this stuff we've talked about. There's actually an answer that just kind of jumps out at me that seems almost obvious in retrospect, but I just like to see you struggle.
Well, I think for one thing I could definitely do is pursue the women that are emotionally and socially intelligent, and not the women that are dependent.
Yeah.
And I can usually figure it out pretty quickly.
No, it's pretty good, but there's an even more obvious answer that's very synergistic. It's go to all the people in your social group, especially the women, and tell them what you just told me. Right? Say, here's my pattern. Right? I find women who are dependent but attractive, or whatever it is, and then I withdraw and I play out this thing, and here's my insight about my life and my family and whatever. And you're my friend, you're someone that I hang out with, that I like hanging out with, you're part of my social group, and I want to have a woman that has a social group that I like, and it struck me, why don't I see if my social group knows a woman, and then it just will all work. Now, here's who I'm looking for, right? Now, and you be honest, say to these women or guys or whoever's around you, say, I value a woman that's attractive, but that's not the most important thing, but I have to mention it because I am male. And if you put too many ugly women in front of me, I'll have to stop talking to you forever, right? And they'll get it, and they'll be like, okay, I get it, you're a guy. And then say, here are my values in order. Whatever it is, emotionally intelligent, here's what that means. Socially intelligent, here's what that means. Connected to a higher power, here's what that means to me. And I would ideally love to have a relationship where we have our separate lives. This is how much time we spend together. On the weekend, we have some people over, we cook some dinner, we have you and our other friends over, and then we all go out together. Who do you know that would be good for this? Because I'd like to have a relationship with someone like that. And I'm not going to just jump into a relationship with the first person I meet. I'm single right now. I might date a few different women. Wherever you're at on it, be honest. But that's who I'd really like to meet. Have you tried that?
I don't really have a lot of female friends. It's always been something that I've wanted to have and work on. It just seems that either I'll rub girls the wrong way, or if we do become friends, it usually becomes not that wrong way. It usually becomes like sexual. And then once it goes that way, it's been hard for me to maintain the friendship after that. Just go back to being friends.
Okay, well, I admire you for saying that. I can relate to that. So then the next part of your practice here is to go make a minimum of 3 close female friends who are emotionally intelligent, socially intelligent, and connected to a higher power. Ideally, that you're not necessarily that attracted to. They may be attractive, but that's not why you're there. You're there to meet these types of women. Where could you go to meet women that are emotionally and socially intelligent? Where do you think they hang out, connected to a higher power?
So I'm trying to figure out.
There's a place where they go all the time and hang out in big groups, and there are no men there. Sundays? Sundays? Church? Woman transformation? What? There you go. Yoga classes.
Yoga classes.
Yeah. I've said this one before. I used it as a teaser even when I was doing one of the teleclasses to get a few more guys into this program. I went to a yoga class, I don't know, 8 weeks ago or 12 weeks ago or so, probably 2 or 3 months ago. And I went into the yoga class, I looked around, and it was me and 25 women. And I was like, this is, I've never seen one where there were no men, but there it was. And this is a funky yoga class that's over here in LA where you do some yoga and stretching, and then there's actually a whole dance component at the end. Come on. So, there's one idea, and I think you'll find if you go check this out that not only will you get a lot of good personal growth out of it, but the types of women that you meet running around in yoga classes, they tend to be like a different type of person. I mean, they really do. Because you'll meet business women in there, and you'll meet, weird new age hippie chicks, and you'll meet spiritual guru women. I mean, you meet all kinds of, and all in a very positive way. And they'll look you up and down, and they'll say, oh, here, let me help you out here, So try a yoga class. Other things, and the reason why yoga is so great is those women are typically connected to that kind of higher power thing. And a lot of yoga is about developing yourself on a psychological, emotional, intellectual level in a way that I won't take the time to explain right now, but it's really about getting into your body and connecting at a different level there. So I would try something like that, right? You don't have any female friends?
Well, I've got a little sister. She's a couple years younger than me, and
That
we're
doesn't count.
friends. But
I'm friends with my sister.
Well, no, what I was going to say is that she was a couple years younger than me in high school, and we kind of run in similar circles. Like, we know a lot of the same people. I mean, I'm not from a town like it's big, it's a university town, but it's not huge.
Yeah.
So you get to know everybody that's going to be there for a while pretty quickly. And I've met girls through her that, and I don't think it's because I can't develop female friends. I think what happens is, like, I'll meet a girl and I'll start to, like, I could be her friend. Like, there's a fork in the road. I could be her friend, or I could try to hook up. And
or I could fork.
I usually decide to fork her.
Right.
Right.
You see a fork in the road, take it.
And it doesn't always work out
Right.
for whatever reason. But in my experience, if you do try to take it to that level with a girl and it doesn't work out, then you're probably not going to go back to a friendship either. So that's just my experiences. So,
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about there.
you know what I mean? If you
I
create
do.
this awkward situation, and then
Well, also, if you, the way the dynamic works essentially is if you take things to a physical or a sexual level very quickly, you amass more power in a certain way in the relationship, right? That she can't hold that over your head anymore, so to speak. But also, you lose a certain mystery in the relationship, so to speak, and then you also have to almost make a decision a little quicker about, like, what's this thing going to turn into? Is it going to go down the relationship path? Is this going to be like a friends with benefits type thing? Or was this just kind of a little fling? Trying to reel it back and turn it into a friendship is a little harder. In my experience, it's a little harder and a little bit weirder, and it doesn't as often go that way. Although I do know guys that are, more casual about these things, and they've figured out how to kind of make it happen. But just my experience with it and talking to other guys, that's kind of not the direction it goes. Have any of these women seemed like they might be a little bit more connected to a higher power and more socially and emotionally aware?
usually when I'm just trying to hook up with a girl, I'm not even looking at those things, and I think that's
You're
that's
looking
the
at something
issue.
totally different.
I'm just
Yeah.
I'm not even like, it's like I don't even care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's negative and positive. I mean, if we hook up, it's positive. If we don't, then it's negative, because they know what's going on. They figured out that I'm trying to.
Oh yeah.
They know I don't care if they're
Right.
emotionally or spiritually connected, and it's frustrating for me, like that my mind just goes into this like one thought process, and it's like they could like have a boyfriend,
Who can relate to what he's saying right now, by the way? Raise your hand. Good.
They could have a boyfriend, like they could like say, I'm a Christian, I'm not ever gonna have sex until I'm married. There could be like every reason why she'd be the hardest girl for me to have sex with, but like I'm still like, that's all I think about. Like, it doesn't matter that logically it's probably not gonna happen. It's still, and I think when every like vibe I have with a girl is sexual, they don't look at me like a friend.
Did you have challenges meeting women when you were younger?
When I was younger,
Yeah.
like middle school,
Whatever.
yeah,
At
up until
any
about
phase?
like early high school.
Okay. And then what happened?
I just started hanging out with a guy that all the girls wanted to like hook up with, and kind of started like, it's like a mastermind kind of group thing. And
You learned from a maestro.
I just learned from a guy who knew what he was doing, and then I kind of developed my own.
What did you learn
style.
from him? I'm going way off the beaten path here. Is this okay, guys? All right, good. What did you learn from him?
He just had a way about him. Like he'd be talking to girls, and like he went to a different high school. He came to my high school one day, just to say what's up. And like one girl from my school came up to my class. She was like, "Hey, your friend Chase is downstairs," and like that was just how girls were. It was just like mesmerized me. I couldn't believe that like so many girls just wanted to be around him. Like, I mean, I guess a couple things I learned from the guy were just be more like chill. Don't worry about Like, don't like when you're talking to a girl, like, just act like you're not. It's not act like you don't care, but just, don't care. Just chill out. And that's just how he was. He was kind of like a hippier dude, but like skateboarded, and it's hard to like put it because it was so long ago. It's hard to like put it into words. But I do remember like my mom or like my dad. They didn't really like him too much. They thought he was kind of like a bad kid, and they would always like.
That's surprising.
They would always try to call me out and be like, "What are you trying to be like Chase?" Like if I did anything like similar to him, they like really didn't want me to be like that.
What's interesting is the only thing that you said about him that I could latch on to was, you said you just kind of chill, not care. Like be detached, not care. And that's, that could be playing into this little mythology that you've got going on, because that does work for a very specific type of woman. It works pretty well for a lot of women, okay, relatively speaking, compared to running over and kissing a woman's ass and so forth. The whole, like, I don't care. I don't even notice you. In fact, I'm just kind of doing my own thing and life's good, can be very magnetic. But for the kind of woman that you want, if you want a healthy woman who's emotionally and socially intelligent and connected, you got to realize that that woman isn't going to look at, what was his name?
Chase.
Chase? Mm-hmm. She's not going to look at Chase and say, that's the guy that I want to have a great relationship with. You follow? She'll probably appreciate that you've gone through all the stuff that you've gone through, and that you get it, and you know what's going on, and you know how all of the moves work and so forth. She'll appreciate being with a man who knows how the whole thing works, but you won't appreciate that part, that piece that seems to be so pivotal that in a way you do that and then everything kind of falls into place, can actually be a big hindrance in this case, right? So what you might need to do is get really clear about this woman, really figure out who she is, and then I think you need to make some female friends and start being around these types of women and get their feedback. I think you need to get some women that you can have a relationship with as friends. And I also think that if you can find these women, ideally that have, a man in their life, and see if you can make friends with both of them. One of the most interesting things that I've ever done is make good friends with couples who really have the kind of relationship that I want, and then hang out with them and say, hey, here's my situation. How do you guys each see this? And see how the man sees it, and see how the woman sees it, and see how they talk to each other about it, and really get in there. Okay, I think this can provide like a level of insight that we can't even do right here, right? That could be very, very powerful for you. So for you, that old mythology sounds like there's something maybe in the parents, going on, but sounds like a lot of it may have been influenced by this guy who you met, where you first learned how to kind of attract women. And if you're a laid-back skater, surfer type person who just doesn't care and is, just kind of in the moment, you're not really looking for a relationship, that works great for attracting the kind of woman that you just said that you broke up with, who was the really attractive, dependent type. That works great for those kinds of women, because you get to be the project. They get to see the good part of you, even though you're not really engaged with them, and they get to try and have their heart broken over and over and over and over until it doesn't work out, and then they can still think about you and have their friends say, well, he was a jerk anyway and you didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? But if you want this other woman that you're talking about, and you want to have that new, engaged with your friends, going out and having fun and growing and becoming, a better man, you're going to have to do something different. It's not going to work this same way anymore. You've got to transcend. You've got to go to the next level. So do you think you can make a few female friends, and ideally couple friends, who have the kind of relationship like the one you want?
Yeah.
Yeah? And do you think that you could take some courage do you have the courage to say to them, hey, look, you know, this is my story. This is where I came from. I learned to meet women from this guy who was just a natural and he was very good. And then here was my rap for a while, and I dated all these attractive women. And now I've gone through this thing where when I meet women, we just kind of get physical very quickly, and then that's it. It's kind of over. And even if we don't, I'm always thinking about it. And I think that this is the kind of woman that I really need. And you know my story, and what do you think? I think you'll get some really good results. I think you'll probably get some positive results from this because you'll learn a lot about yourself. And ideally, if you play this right and you have integrity about it, these people will help introduce you to the kind of woman that I think you're looking for. Because that's where you find them. You find that they know other people like them. We hang around with people that are like us. We hang around with people that are like us, like a lot. You follow?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. I went deep with you because you're being unusually honest, and I think that it helps us all when someone's honest to just say, okay, I'm not alone. You know, there are other people that are out there in the same kind of situation, been through the same kinds of things. So thank you very much.
No problem.